Hello guys, I'm here at the French Riviera on the Côte d'Azur in Nice in France. Great place to be. Time for me to make another video. A question I was asked by Robert, and thank you a lot for this, it was a very interesting question. When is the right point of time to open up the upper body during a leg drive? So the question was, when the legs are pushing, and this is the upper body, when is the right point of time? When the legs are fully stretched? Should you do it right at the catch? Is there a fixed rule? My opinion is that no, there is no fixed rule, there's a principle. And the principle is that whatever you do with your upper body must result in full force connection between your hands and your feet. And your feet should always feel the same amount of resistance as your hands do. And the point about this is that whatever your upper body does should result in more boat speed. What happens if you raise the upper body very early at the catch is nothing but drowning your blade. This is my shoulder position. This is my hand position. If I open up my upper body, what I do is I lift my hands. And if I lift my hands at the catch, it results in the blades going down. If my blades go down, I cannot possibly create that water bubble, that anchor in front of the blade that we need in order to accelerate the boat. What I mean with this, let me recap that real quickly. If we are at the catch, and this is my blade, I anchor it in the water. So what I do then, I want to create some type of resistance. If you check out the other videos, you will see this explained in a lot more details. I just quickly like to recap this. I enter the blade, and water has a much greater inertia than air. So I can go through with my hand through air easily. There's not a lot of resistance. I just feel a bit of wind going through my fingers. But if you do this in the water, the more power you add, the more resistance you will feel, simply because water doesn't move away from your blade as quickly as air does. So we can use this phenomenon to propel the boat. What we do, we set the blade in the water and apply, you don't need to apply a lot of force, just barely a bit. The blade is round shaped anyway. It's perfectly created for this type of job, to create what I call an anchor, or call it a water bubble. If you push slightly with your blade, and this does not require a lot of effort, it's just all the leverage of your body used will create enough to create that water bubble and anchor, because the water will not go away from your blade once you start to apply a bit of pressure. But you have to be prepared to keep your blade in a vertical, stable position. If you change the height, and this means lifting the upper body, lifting the hand, doing something that would change your hand's height, it will result in a change of blade height. Whenever you change your blade height at the catch, it means that the water bubble slips either below or above the blade. So this will result in a skipping through the water. The blade will skip through the water. There will never be a perfect anchor. And this is why, in my opinion, it doesn't make a lot of sense to raise the upper body very early at the catch. It just doesn't create the anchor we need to propel the boat. And we want to create the anchor because here at the catch, the boat is a bit slower than usual. So for us, it's easier to create resistance on the blade. Once the boat is going through the entire drive phase, it's not easy to regain that anchor. But you have to do this. If you do it wrong, if you lift the upper body at the catch very early, what you need to do is eventually a quarter through the stroke, maybe halfway through the stroke, you need to start finding that anchor. Otherwise, you will just pull the blade through the water, which is not very effective. And I know that a lot of coaches say that you should do this in fast team boats. I'm not convinced that everyone has my opinion. It's just my personal opinion, and I'm not the Mr. Know-it-all. I just have a few ideas I'd like to share. And maybe these ideas will change, but for the last couple of years, this very idea has been a very fixed point of my view in terms of rowing technique and coaching. And it's like this. A lot of people say in a fast-going boat, let's say a quad, a coxless 4 or an 8, you need to lift up the upper body at the catch in order to create resistance on the blade. But what we just said before actually makes it obvious that you do not create resistance on the blade. It just feels like. Why does it? Because if you drown your blade and vertically, it means you drop it low in the water, rowers tend to feel something that we call resistance, but it's not resistance that propels the boat. It's just that the lower you drown the blade, the more resistance you get. But it's a vertical resistance. It's no resistance you can use to propel the boat. This feels like resistance. So athletes give feedback to the coach and say, yeah, I feel a lot of resistance if I lift the upper body at the catch. Coaches say, great, let's do more of this. Let's do it all together. I think that a lot of us coaches know that this is not efficient, but it's not easy to synchronize technique in a team boat. So a lot of us tend to do something that pays off in the short run, but doesn't pay off in the long run. Let's say you have a quad. You have 4 individuals in there, and one of them is very efficient. The other one is almost as efficient, but not quite. And then you have 2 very strong guys who are not efficient at all. The typical erg kings, which have nothing to do with rowing. So you got 2 horses, you got 2 technique guys. What you do is then you try to find a common ground of how to propel the boat. And this common ground might be that all 4 become more inefficient, but they do it at the same time. My personal approach here is, if you do it all together, you may be inefficient and still be faster. But in the long run, if it comes to an Olympic final, this will not help you. It always pays off to put in the extra amount of work, the extra amount of understanding amongst the athletes that a leg drive at the catch, a solid leg drive at the catch, which helps you to propel the boat with leg drive only, results in a better boat acceleration and a quicker boat speed. And of course, this is not possible if you have the wrong recovery preparation. There's also a video to this online. Please check it out. Let's recap this once more. Some coaches say, I don't care if it's inefficient if all 4 do it the same way. Yes, pays off in the short run, doesn't pay off in the long run. You might even make it to the A final, but you will probably not make it to the top. A good example for this one is a video that made me think. It was the Sidney Olympic Games in 2000. And this video, for me, was like an eye-opener. Oh, by the way, thank you, Brian. You gave me the hint on the playback speed. I appreciate this a lot. Thank you. I just use it right now. So this is the Olympic final in the men's quad. Germany back then was one of the strongest boats out there. But I don't know. I know the video quality is not too good. But check this out. This is about 500 meters to go, 600 meters to go. And let's go a bit back. Check out the German style. The Germans, now use, Brian, your playback speed button. Okay, you can see that the Germans are barely using their upper bodies at all. They stay straight at the catch, they stay straight in the back. And to my knowledge, I don't know if that's true, they did it because they found out that the force curves are better if you enter the blade with an upright upper body and leave the water with an upright upper body too. From the bi-rower coaching, I know that this is true, but it's not a proper means from my point of view to just say, okay, let's cut off all the other parts of the stroke. We just take the one fraction in the middle, which appears to be effective, that rectangular curve. No, we need to rest. We need to rest and we need to make it more efficient. So a larger fraction of the stroke is more effective than this. That's the Italians. And the Italians are doing something that I like a lot. They have a long leg drive and then they open up the upper body at the same point of time. So you can see that now the Germans and Italians have the same stroke rate and they set the blade at the same point of time. They leave the blade at the same point of time. And what the Italians are doing now, in an instant, they just gain speed. And if you check this out, they have a leg drive, they all two together. This means that they actually create boat speed with the leg drive only. And there, you see, this is half a boat length. Half a boat length in maybe 200 meters. You've got to be able to do this. You can only do this if you add a farther element than just your legs. legs plus upper body, because the upper body supports the leg drive. The Germans had no support. All they could do was just go like a sewing machine, faster and faster and faster and faster. What do you want to do? You want to go 50 strokes a minute? That's not possible. There is a physical limit to this. This is why you have to get as much out of every stroke as possible. And the Italians are now one boat length up. And the Germans were strong as horses. I mean, the Italians also. But there is a difference. There is a difference that makes a gold medal or a bronze medal or no medal at all. And by now, the Germans came under pressure from the Dutch, who also won a medal later on. And you can see this now. I have changed playback speed right now. It's so interesting. Okay, I know the quality is not good, but you see that leg drive opening up of the upper body. A leg drive opening up the upper body. Although the quality is bad, you can see the silhouette would show that there's something going on past the leg drive phase. And this example for me shows that it doesn't matter if you row a single, a double, or if you row a quad. Now, some people may ask the question, is the same thing true with sweep rowing? To my opinion, yes. So let's celebrate the Italians a bit in 2000, where they became Olympic champion. Whoop, going in first, Dutch second. The Germans, although they were in the lead, came in third, simply because they ran out of movement to accelerate the boat. Let's switch the video. And let's check out something very new. 16 years later, a couple months ago, World Cup in Varese in Italy. This is the coxless men's 4. For me, one of the most interesting races to watch. And you will see that the Americans who will win the World Cup later on, they're right here, use the same principle. Although they are somewhat upright, they actually have an effective upper body movement. You can see it, counter stroke here, leg drive, opening, leg drive, opening, the leg drive and opening. And this may be more apparent in some teams, less apparent in other teams. From my point of view, it doesn't always have to look as if people were doing it. What counts for me, and what I know from the bi-rower coaching, we do a lot with live force curve training, etc. Sometimes people look like they don't use the upper body at all, while they actually create quite a lot of force and impact with their upper body. If you have ever tried out a bi-rower, you will see this. A lot of athletes who sit on a bi-rower for the first time, they say at the catch there is a slight play, although I know there isn't technically. There is even less play than in the boat. But the slight bit of play at the catch seems to evaporate as soon as people start to lift up the arms and then push horizontally only, the way you actually should be doing it in the boat. As soon as they, however, start to open up the upper body at the catch, lift that vertical movement, they have a slight play. And that slight play is nothing but the blade going down in the water. But on the bi-rower, unless you use the full oar system with the special gel dampers, etc., if you use the standard bi-rower, there is no vertical resistance. There's only horizontal resistance. This is why I use it a lot in training, despite the fact that we just build the machines. Because it forces athletes to stay connected at the catch and only work horizontally. So now you can see the Americans. Leg drive opening. He even shoots the slides a bit. The shooting the slide thing, I will get to this more specifically maybe in a different video. People do it because force curves tend to become better if you shoot the slides, if you haven't prepared the recovery perfectly. If you have not prepared the recovery perfectly, hands away, etc., you have to compensate for a wrong body position. Some people lift up the upper body, some people shoot the slides. Shooting the slides is the better of two worst. So best would be not to do any of the two mentioned. So almost a boat length now up, or 3/4 of a boat length, and they have a long leg drive, and something is actually moving the boat at the end of the leg drive additionally. So again, with sweep rowing, this makes them quite fast. If we check out the Dutch, you see the stroke lifts up the upper body quite early. They actually do the upper body work all over the stroke. This might create more boat speed in the middle, but you run out of movement and effective boat speed towards the finish of the stroke. This means nothing but you create a higher peak in the middle of the force curve, but you do not flatten it out. And what helps to accelerate the boat well is to flatten out the force curve, the plateau. There's no perfect plateau. This is not effective too, but plateau-like force curve, which means a constant resistance on the blade and on the feet, and keep it all the way to the finish. That constant resistance is what propels the boat. Any sudden change in boat speed will actually decrease it in relation to the effort, because the inertia of the water is also not applicable before the blade, but also in front of the boat. So if you start to accelerate the boat rapidly, you will first of all feel a lot more resistance up to that point where you can actually break that resistance and float. But that floating stage needs to be approached softly. This is why, from my opinion, just another side fact, extra aggressive starts do not pay off. Another interesting thing about this is the Italians. If you have time, watch the race. The Italians look like they work extremely hard from the first stroke. This is an attitude thing. I have barely ever seen any team fighting so fiercely as the Italians do. You should see their faces. They show their teeth from the start. And their technique here at the bow, I don't think it's too effective. But again, if you have the right heart to do it, and if you do it at the same point of time, a lot of things work. But if you have two guys with the same amount of raw power available, I'd rather go for the more efficient way. Okay, I hope this answers the question somewhat. If there are more things unclear, just please drop me a message. I try to clarify it as much as I can.